Good evening, my name is Garrett, and welcome to The Last Call. Tonight's final drink is Canadian Club Reserve. This is their 9-year-old release, coming in at a solid 40% ABV. And Canadian Club's one of those brands that I feel like a lot of people overlook. Here in the whiskey community, we tend to look at Canadian whiskeys as being too simple or too sweet. But I think it's actually one of those nice selections for people getting introduced to whiskey. They tend to go, most people recommend going with Irish. Irish tends to be a simple and a good introduction, and I don't disagree with that. But there are certain times that I feel like Canadian whiskey also might help out with that. I mean, during Prohibition, they were a huge importer to the United States, and overall Canadian whiskeys do have some interesting palates when you get outside of the realm. I think here in the United States we run into a lot of source whiskeys from Canada, and they tend to be okay. And then we also know, obviously, the biggest one, which is Crown Royal being the biggest Crown and Coke. I mean, I don't know a single bar or restaurant that you can't get a Crown and Coke at. But either way, enough on my soapbox there. But I've been trying to do a lot more Canadian whiskeys, especially Canadian Club. They're pretty accessible in my location, so as more reviews for them start going live, they'll be up above, but we'll be doing like the 9. I plan on doing their 100% rye, the 12, and I actually got a bottle of their 43-year-old one, which was a whole other story. Either way, Canadian whiskeys being blended is an interesting thing because a lot of times the components are aged separately and then they're brought back together to make that. Plus, there's also some weird rules on what percentages can actually be other things. I think it's up to, don't quote me on this, but I think it's up to like 9 or 10% of Canadian whiskey can be anything else. So if they just want to dump in something else random in here, they can do that. But either way, enough of that. We're going to be trying this 2 different ways. First way, we're going to be going neat, no ice, no water. And second way, we'll add a couple drops of water, see what changes up. Now again, Canadian Club for my location, I can usually find the 9, their bottom shelf, which is a no age statement. And then I can usually find the 12 pretty commonly. Nice simple bottle. I've seen some of them being these fat stubby bottles. I've seen a couple of the long tall bottles as well. And being a cork style. Very surprising on that. Nice darker color, a little bit of a almost amber-like, but more brown. Let's go for notes. Get a bit of sweetness, obviously, and that's what Canadian whiskeys are known to have. ABV shows up just a little bit, but it has this maple-y quality to it. And it's a little sweet, caramel-like. Almost like a chocolate caramel note. It lightly reminds me of Virginia Black, which I'll link up above as well, being American whiskey and not a Canadian. But it's just kind of simple. And again, there's nothing wrong with simple whiskeys. You get a little bit of that oak in there as well, just slightly. But it's definitely got a caramely sweetness to it. Let's go for taste. ABV shows up a little bit on the taste. But you do get this nice, simple sweetness from that caramel notes. That little bit of oak shows up and helps carry things together. And I think that's the glue in this situation. Is we're getting this kind of chocolatey note, this kind of rich caramel notes, and then this nice rounded oak kind of in between there. To me, it's not overly sweet. I can see why some people would think it, especially if you're used to more potent whiskeys or more American style. It is sweeter, but I find that kind of being just nice on the palate. I don't need to be exploring a whiskey every time I sit down with it. Sometimes just having something simple is not a bad thing. Let's go for round 2. Get a little more earthier notes on that one. a little bit more like, I don't know why, but I'm picking up like a fresh grass note. A little earthiness in there. Not fresh grass, I take that back. Just kind of a little bit of earthiness in there. But very much just nice and simple, not complex, a little sweet. You get that maple quality in there. But I love that caramel note that shows up. I find that caramel note just being it melts so well on my palate with that oak note. Nice and easy. Love it. Let's go ahead and try some with some water. Okay. Add a couple drops in here. Maybe what I'm tasting, hold on, before I get into this one. Hold on here. I'm gonna go back to this one real quick. It's got, I think that note that I thought was fresh grass, more spice-like an earthy spice. So now that I got that programmed in my brain, I'm picking up a little more spice in there. Yeah. Kind of like almost fall spices, like maybe like a clove and nutmeg and just those kind of light fall spices in that. Yeah, I'm getting a little more spice on that. Okay. Sorry, I finally figured it out. I had to think for a moment because I knew that flavor from somewhere. Okay, got a little water added in this. Let's find out. ABV basically is non-existent. You still get that little bit of sweetness in there, but basically all the other notes have gone flat. Which, again, tends to happen in Canadian whiskeys. Tends to not get too crazy when you add water to them. Let's go for taste. A little more spice on the taste. ABV is basically gone, but that caramel and oak note, the oak is really shining right now for me. Second drink, I'm getting even more oak on that. That sweetness is actually dialed back quite a bit. I'm getting a lot more oak and spice notes. It's a little more dry, too. Pretty dry on the palate. Warming, though. My mouth is very warm at the moment. I don't know if that's the ABV kicking up a little bit for some reason. Not like I shouldn't say the ABV, the alcohol note kicking up, but it's a very warming effect. But not to the point of me going, ooh, that's got a bite to it. It's teetering that line, but not quite. Definitely neat, I find, is the way to go on this one. I just find that it's a little more simple, and the balancing of the flavors that happens, that oak, the sweet, that caramel note, and those spices all just balance so much better in the neat version than the one with the water. Still not bad though. All right, let's talk about market price, because we all know market price is market price. In my region, I can usually find the 9-year-old version of this at roughly $20. I've seen some places go a little bit cheaper, like 18 to 16. I can usually find it for 20. I've seen some places actually posting this for upwards of $30. While I was on vacation down in Florida, seeing this going for like $27 or $29. I think that's a little expensive on this bottling. It's not super complex. It's easy sipping. And again, I find this being a good introduction to whiskeys that people are like, I don't do whiskey, I'm not interested, but I kind of want to try something. I tend to lean in I tend to get them out a glass of each. Here's some Irish, usually Bush or Jameson. I try to go simple on those, depending on how they feel about the alcohol note, because Jameson does have beautiful flavors, but kind of a strong alcohol on the nose. Or I tend to go into the Canadian Club because of how simple that is. But for $20, it's an easy one. It's a good one for mixing, especially if you're a Crown and Coke fan. This would be an even cheaper route than Crown and Coke. You'd be a Canadian Club and Coke. So 3 C's. Either way, I think it's an all right buy at $20. It's hard to scoff at. So there you have it. Canadian Club 9-year-old reserve. If you have any questions about it, let me know down in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer them. And if you have any specific spirits you would like me to review, also let me know in the comment section down below. I'm always looking for something new, exciting to try, or just different. So until next time, may your last drink of the night be the best one.
You know, I really like it might